Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to another fun-filled and very exciting episode of Easy Prepping. Today is a follow-up to the video I did on having water, being able to store water, ways to store water, ways to purify water. And today we're going to cover dehydration. In other words, what happens to you if you don't have water or some other liquids available. And that reminds me, I normally keep a cup right here close. I go through a lot of water, especially when I'm making videos, get kind of dry. But water is your most vital prep. Should be your number one priority. Uh, the rule of three says you can go 3 days without water. That's not going to be true if you're either having to exert yourself a lot, you're sweating a lot. If you're sick, if you have either symptoms of diarrhea or vomiting, you're losing fluids a lot faster. You're not going to make it 3 days. So first we're going to cover dehydration, and let's get started on that. I think first I'd like to cover some of the symptoms of dehydration, how to know if you're becoming dehydrated and that you need to get more fluids into your body. First we have extreme thirst, tired or confused, no urine for 8 hours, rapid heartbeat, dizziness that doesn't go away when you stand up or get out of the dentist chair in my case. Uh, anyway, in the color of your urine, and I think that was also drilled into me in boot camp years ago, but I was reminded when I worked at Fort Knox, most of the restrooms have color charts in them for Army personnel to compare the color of their urine to the chart to show how hydrated their body was. So that the darker the color, of course, the more they need to get some water in them. I'll put a chart up here you can buy on Amazon, but I don't think you need a chart. Just use some common sense. The darker it is, the more you need to go get some water. I've made a list of 7 things here in my brief research on the internet of things that you should have to prevent dehydration or to treat it. The first, of course, is water. It's easiest. It comes out of your tap. It's free as long as it's still coming out of your tap. Then I'll go into briefly here ways of storing up water. But after that, we have electrolyte infused water. Typically on the shelf, you might see it as smart water. And I do have some of it stored in the basement, but not a whole lot. And then there's something called Pedialyte, which is a medical grade hydration. It's not prescription. From what I saw, you can just go out and buy it and have some on the shelf. When I mentioned the name to my wife, she said she had heard it's mainly for children. So you might look in that direction if you have kids that you'd be worried about them getting dehydrated. And number 4 on our list is, of course, Gatorade. Its biggest advantage is, well, the ease of getting it, putting it on the shelf. You just pick it up at the market and bring it home, put it on the shelf. Then we have homemade electrolyte-rich drink. You can just take sugar, salt, with a whole lot of water, and you've got somewhat of an electrolyte drink. If you want something that tastes a little better, one I saw on the internet here, you get ginger, lemon, lime juice, agave, sea salt, and mineral water. Now, that might be a good idea, but I think in an SHTF scenario, having all those ingredients might be pretty tough. Number 6 on the list, watermelon. And although it's not something you can buy and put on the shelf, if you had any available, it's 92% water. So you would get hydrated by eating some watermelon. And then there's coconut water, last number 7. From what I read online, it's more healthy than Gatorade as its sugars are natural. They're not man-made sugars that are injected into it. And do not confuse this with coconut milk. After being on Guam and drinking natural coconut milk straight out of the coconut after it fell off the tree, I guarantee you it will make you more dehydrated, not less. And as one little side note, things to stay away from if you want to avoid dehydration, and it's caffeine and alcohol. But knowing me, I'm still going to have my cup of coffee in the morning. I just probably follow it up by a large glass of water. And, well, probably the same with alcohol. If you saw my what to have for bartering, you know I've got some alcohol around the house. A while back, I did a whole video on water, storing water, how I have it stored. But as a just a brief review, uh, you can just buy cases of water at the grocery store. I have some of the smaller cases that I have stacked up in the tornado shelter, and some of the bigger cases I have stacked up in the garage because there's, well, more room in the garage. And then there's the 5 gallon containers, 7, 8, 10 gallon, all the way up to 55 gallon. But for the 5 gallon containers, I just looked on Amazon and they are ungodly expensive. I don't recommend them. I just got some a while back. Didn't cost this much then, as an off chance that just in case the wife and I ever had to bug out. I don't not foresee that ever happening, but just in case. And then there's the 55 gallon containers, which I saw on Amazon. I forget how much it was now. I'll post it up here. But I saw those, and I went out and looked online. I think it was just Facebook Marketplace. I found a lady about 8, 10 miles from me selling them for $10 each. I believe it was $10, but they were food grade. They had been used to ship lime juice, and now 2 of them are in my basement, full of water. And not only storing some water, but having a way to purify your water, even if you've got it on the shelf. Some that I have stored down there in what were V8 bottles have been there a while. So I would probably run them through some purification process before drinking them. There are many different purification processes. The 2 most common ones that I have on the shelf, one is that Life straw. This is meant more for backpackers, campers, or survivalists. And there's the 2 different kind that I have are just the one you would carry in a backpack and you would suck water through it like you would a straw. And the other is a gravity fed. You could actually hang this thing from, say, even a tree limb or something, and you pour your water into a container on top, and your fresh water comes out the bottom. And then there's the big Berkey that we have on the shelf that we used a while back for the first time when our water company sent us a notice about boil water. We got out the big Berkey, and instead of boiling, we ran it through this. Well, we lived. I'm not an expert on the things that could be in your water that could hurt you, but that's the reason I have books. And there are quite a few of the books, some I showed you on survival, that have sections in them on water. But I would recommend a smaller book, one that could go in your backpack if you had to. This is the one I have. I looked on Amazon. It's also one of the least expensive. It's about $10 right now. It's the Prepper's Water Survival Guide. Harvest, treat, and store your most vital resource. And I think one of the most important sections in here is treatment, purifying your water. So I could list them off to you here. This is much more informative, comprehensive. Highly recommend, if not this book, get you one that covers all of that. I'd just like to close with asking that you please, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. And if you found the video informative, likable, click that thumbs up like button. And I'd like to close with a little bit of a different quote today. It's one of my favorite TV shows. It's no longer on, but it's called Red Green. And he usually closed his show with, "If the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy."